Welcome, gamers and listeners! Amy and Monty here, coming back at you with another episode of the MojoGaming podcast. For Halloween, we have a spoopy game to talk about, but first, a warning. This game contains scenes of explicit violence and gore. If you guessed Resident Evil, you are correct! So before we go into the gameplay of Resident Evil, let's talk about some trivia behind the world of the game. So we have a new little segment introduced to everybody called Gaming Tidbits. We just want to talk about some, little fun facts and some possible things you might not have known about the games. So some trivia, almost. Some tidbits. So here's our first tidbit. So first off, for those of you who don't know, Resident Evil is actually called Biohazard in Japan, which, personally, I think is actually a little bit scarier title than Resident Evil. Not exactly sure why they changed it for America. It
makes more sense, too. Because, Resident Evil could be anything, but Biohazard focuses mostly on, how it's, a chemical disaster.
Yeah, a virus, widespread. So, when Resident Evil came out physically, it came out for the PlayStation, the computer, the Sega Saturn, and then later on the Nintendo DS. It went through several redesigns. And when the game was conceived, originally in 1993, they planned to release it on the Super Nintendo. Then they created a 3D first-person PlayStation version of the game in 1994. Then they finally settled on a third-person game with pre-rendered backdrops, which is what we have today. I'm kind of curious. I would have loved to see what it would have looked like on the Super Nintendo. I know they did make Resident Evil 2 for the Nintendo 64. The graphics were... just as great as the PlayStation, in my opinion. I like that the only cool thing about the 64 that the PlayStation version didn't have is you could actually choose your blood color. So you could make it, blue or green if you wanted to.
Yeah, for people who are sensitive to that kind of thing.
Yeah, because Nintendo was, heavily, no blood in their games for the 64. So the only real difference in Resident Evil Director's Cut versus the original was you can choose your difficulty. And, you only get so much ink ribbon, and it was just harder in general. You don't get as many items and all that fun stuff. In 1997, they released a remake of Resident Evil on the GameCube, with updated graphics, of course. It's a beautiful game. If you've never played the GameCube one, I totally recommend it. It's so creepy. Thankfully, in 2015, they released the GameCube version on next-gen systems, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, which is amazing. And apparently next year, they're going to be coming out with that one also on the Switch, which is, sweet. So the producer of Resident Evil, Takuro Fujiwara, tried to model the game after his earlier horror game, Sweet Home. It was apparently based on a Japanese horror movie of the same name. The movie tells the story of 5 filmmakers exploring an old mansion.
That is the most terrifying, horror movie name I can imagine.
Sweet Home?
Sweet Home. It sounds like one of those, those, apps that you can get where it's, a anime, decorating roleplay game. That's what it sounds like.
Delicious bakery.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, anyway. I could totally see that. But Japanese name titles are always very strange when deciphered into English. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, that name is just great. I love it.
Yep.
So, what was your favorite part of the game, Monty?
There's one point where you find a journal about somebody who got infected with the T-virus, and it's actually really creepy because it's from his point of view, so he's just I'm itchy, and
there's a growth on my back, and it's
and you're how terrifying would that be to have that happen to you?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's one of the scarier, not jump scare parts of the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I really liked it, so yeah.
I just really loved that they actually put, books and,
stuff you can read.
Yeah, they actually, showed you the people who actually dealt with this, the crap, their point of view. Because otherwise you'd just be walking through, la-da-da-da-da, well, a bunch of people died.
It's not just, a shoot-'em-up, zombie island thing where you're, it's overrun with zombies. Who cares about them? I just gotta kill them all.
Exactly. It's definitely more realistic. That's how it felt. Especially, the little pieces of articles and, diaries and journals that you read definitely, help back that up.
What was your favorite part?
Good question. I'm gonna be honest. I've played Resident Evil a few dozen times. It's not my favorite Resident Evil. The original one is not my favorite, but it is a very good game. But it's hard to pinpoint like an exact thing that I really liked about the game. There are a few parts that I just got so overwhelmed I just wanted to throw it on the controller and quit. But that's part of the charm of Resident Evil.
No, I don't think I'd have the patience to, like, play through, like, the entire game myself.
Some people can get through this entire game in an hour.
Not me.
It's insane.
Yeah, mostly because the controls are really, like, weird, because the camera angles are funky.
Mm-hmm. So my favorite part would probably have to be just, like, the feeling of happiness you get when you finally beat the game, and that you realize, hey, I don't have to play this game for, like, another 5 years if I don't want to. Because there was so many things that I forgot about the game since the last time I played it, and so many things that were fun to, like, re-experience, but also things that were, like, oh, they just made me so incredibly angry. I just wanted to throw, like, everything in my house, outside of my house. It was upsetting, but the feeling of, like, happiness I got as soon as those end credits happened, I was just like, everybody should play this game. Even if, like, you get those parts where you just want to throw all of your worldly possessions outside. It's a great game. So, now we're going to discuss the game story a little bit, but before we go into that, I want to talk a little bit about the actual, like, movement and controls and, like, the inventory and ink ribbons and such. So a lot of people give up on this game because they play it for like 5 minutes, get killed by the very first thing that comes out at you, and then they're just like, you know what, the controls suck, I couldn't aim, the thing ate me in like 2 seconds, and just like, this game sucks. Well, I gotta tell you that it may seem really hopeless to begin with, but you don't have to really kill any of the zombies in the game if you don't want to. Yes, the controls are hard. As Monty was saying before, the controls are incredibly hard. And every time I replay it, I have to mess around with it for a good, like, 5-10 minutes before it feels natural. Like, it's literally like you have to stop, turn, stop, turn. It's that bad, especially with how flawless, like, walking is in video games these days. It's something that you have to learn, and, like, even if you don't want to learn and you just want to get through the game, just do it. Just try to get through the game as best that you can. That's my advice to you, because it's totally worth it in the end, and you feel very accomplished at the end of this game if you do it. It's a very love-hate game. You love it and you hate it at the same time, and there's no in-between. There is not a lot of save items in here unless you know where everything is, which I do not. You only get 8 slots in your inventory. Bullets can be pretty scarce, especially if you want to take out all of the enemies. Some bosses are just incredibly annoying, and yeah, we'll get into the actual monsters later, but there's just a lot to this game, and like, you don't get it when you only play the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game. You have to definitely give this game an actual, like, fair chance, and I think everybody should. But I've had a lot of people tell me that they just quit after they find out, like, how the controls are. So yeah. Now that I've kind of explained a little bit about the controls and how irritating they can be, let's talk about the opening. There's a little cutscene before you can actually even start the game, and it's just like, I'm pretty sure it's Chris, and he's like walking down a hall with his really stupid vest on, and he's just like, turns around and is like, what's that? And all he does is go, oh, as blood splurts everywhere. Yeah, and then of course the eyeball. It's just a big eyeball, which we know and come to love in the next few games. But there's just a big eyeball and blood splurts everywhere, and it's so cheesy. It's bad, and like, the voice acting is bad, but you're gonna love it. Believe me, you're gonna love it really well. By the end of the game, you're just gonna be like, wow, that was good. It's literally like playing a, like, cheesy B horror movie. So The different modes that you can choose from are original mode, which is the mode that I chose. There's a beginner mode where you get double the ammo, and everything is just easier. The enemies drop easier. You don't use as much ammo. And then arrange mode. The difference between the arrange mode is that you use more bullets to kill enemies. The enemies are tougher, and items are moved. It's a much harder, version of the actual game.
That would confuse the heck out of me.
Yeah, I've never actually played arrange. I've definitely played beginner before, just because sometimes you just want to play a game and you don't want to have to deal with all the crap that comes with Resident Evil. You just want a nice, peaceful zombie killing mission. There are 2 characters to choose from, Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine. I went with Jill with my playthrough. I know her campaign is actually a little easier, which is why I went with it. I knew I could finish it a little faster with Jill. Chris is a little harder experience for people who are much better at the game, and he's just as fun to play with, don't get me wrong. I've always liked Jill better than Chris anyway, though, so I'm pretty biased.
She's got a hat.
Yeah, she's got a blue beret, not a raspberry beret, sadly. So the intro to the game, after you choose all your settings and whatnot, it's July 1998, Raccoon City. Bravo team, they check on people who have been murdered by apparently being eaten. They get reports of people being eaten in the Arclay Mountains, and a team is dispatched to go check out what's going on, and they're attacked in the field by dogs in this mountain. And then the helicopter that dropped them off just leaves. It's you're on your own.
That'd be me. I'd just be bye.
I whip my heli back and forth and just beelines it out of there. So the dogs are running after you. The characters are trying to shoot at them, but it's foggy, of course, because what great horror game wouldn't have immense fog in the fields of a mountain? And then after they find a mansion to hide in, they cut to the cast, which is Chris, Jill, Barry Burton, Rebecca Chambers, and Albert Wesker.
That part seemed kind of like a game show to me.
It was weird.
Because you're just welcome, these are our players for this episode, or something.
And in Jill's specific campaign, you don't even see, I guess you see all of them except Rebecca. Rebecca's, specific to Chris's campaign, so you don't actually even see her, other than that cast thing in the gameplay. Yeah, it's really weird when you think about it. They hide in the mansion, and the characters all look like they just found a bunch of costumes in a closet, and they're just who are you gonna be? And you just, they all look like they're going to a cosplay convention. They pick them up on the way there, and they're like, hey, you guys want to pretend to shoot at some fake dog zombies? And they're like, yeah! That's exactly how it feels. So like I was saying before, your inventory is only 8 slots, so you have to choose what you're going to have on you pretty wisely at every time. If you don't have enough health items, you're going to get screwed. If you don't have enough ammo, you're going to get screwed. If you don't have the item you need and you're miles away from a save room, you're going to be screwed.
Either way, there is screwage.
Yeah, there's immense screwage in this game, and it's great because it makes you think about what you're doing, every step. But at the same time,
heaven forbid,
you get that feeling again where you just want to throw down your controller and call it quits. But don't. You also have, for your health meters, an echocardiogram, which is really cool, and, it has, a few different modes. There's, fine, there's caution, there's danger, and then there's poison.
And crippling depression.
And then there's that part where it's I have crippling depression, which is usually purple. Just kidding. No, it's blue.
True.
But anyway, there are actually a buttload of health items in this game, which is awesome because there are some insane freaking baddies, just regular enemies that you just are you cry when you have to deal with them. But there's very little ink ribbon. I was explaining that before. You only get 2 ink ribbon every time you find it. And unlike,
ink ribbon's what you need to save.
Yeah. Instead of, ink ribbon being, right next to the typewriter, in other Resident Evil games, they just spread it out wherever the heck they want to. There's no rhyme or reason to where you're going to find it. You're going to find it in a shoe. You're going to find it in a closet. But you're never going to find it next to a typewriter. It's really sad. Okay, so now you finally enter the mansion, and it's Jill, it's Barry, and it's Albert Wesker. And you just all look around and you're like, where's Chris? Like, you could possibly lose someone by going through a door, but apparently that's what happened. He's just gone. So they're just like, where's Chris? And then a few seconds after that, they hear gunshots coming from a different room, and Barry and Jill go to check on it, and Wesker's like, I'll just hang out here in the main hall. So you follow Barry into the next room, and you find that there's a huge dining room, and Barry's like, blood? I hope that's not Chris's blood. And yeah, he just checks it out for a little bit and tells you to go see if you can find Chris. So then we encounter our very first zombie. You don't actually have to battle the zombie, which is nice. You can actually just go back through the door that you came in, and Barry will kill the zombie for you, which is actually really nice. I mean, it's nice when you don't have to beat most of the bad guys that they throw at you. But a lot of people are like, oh man, I have to, blow up or beat up the zombie. I have to kill him. It's the only way that I can move on with the story. But there are actually a lot of instances in this game where you actually don't have to do anything at all, which is really cool. The first zombie is... When I was younger and I played this game, it was actually pretty menacing looking. Now it just looks really dumb. He's very, gray and emaciated, and wears the same exact clothing as every other zombie pretty much in the game. They pretty much wear green, or they wear white. Or they're naked. But we'll get to naked zombies a little later. But yeah, there's just those 3 types of zombies in this game. So yeah, and then you realize after you kill the zombie, or Barry kills the zombie, that one of your Bravo members, Kenneth, is dead. He was killed by the zombie that decided that it wants to eat you now. So Barry and Jill are like, whoa, what was that? Why is there people trying to eat us to death? And they go back into the main hall and realize that Wesker is missing now. And Barry's like, whoa, we gotta check out this mansion. That's a good idea. Especially because everybody's disappearing. And he gives Jill this lockpick, and he's like, Jill, you're the master of unlocking. Which, if she was the master of unlocking, wouldn't she have a lockpick on her already? Apparently Barry was the only guy who can hand out the tools that everybody needs in this game.
Yeah, it's weird.
So Barry wants you to check out the mansion, and he's like, I'll meet up with you later. So one of the first rooms that you go into is the shotgun room. What happens in the shotgun room, Monty?
She moves the shotgun and then the ceiling starts to collapse. Or sink.
It starts sinking.
And almost crushes her.
Yeah. And it's got one of the most famous lines in the entire game, where, you make it out only because Barry knocks down the door and he's like, haha, you were almost a Jill sandwich. It's the cheesiest line in this entire game. Not the cheesiest thing that happens, but the cheesiest line I've ever heard in a video game. So, next I'll talk about a little bit about save rooms. So how exactly do save rooms work, Monty?
Like we've mentioned before, you find ink ribbon randomly throughout the game, and then if you find the save room, you use it on a typewriter, and then you can save your game.
Yep. And then you also have there's a big chest there that you can store items and take items out, because you get hundreds of different items in this game. You don't need all of them. Some of them aren't even important, and then some of them you're using constantly, like your health items and your ammo and your puzzle pieces that you need all of the time. But most importantly, it is a save room. And you can actually tell the difference between a regular room and a save room because of the music. So another thing that you can do with items is you can combine items. And, I was like, you know what? I don't want to combine a clip with my gun. I'd much rather combine the gun and the knife and make a gun knife. But it wouldn't let me. So, as we were talking about before, there are a lot of puzzles in this game. There's a painting room, which is one of the first puzzles that you encounter. It basically gives you a little tip as to what you're supposed to do with the paintings that are in this room, and it's creepy. The room is creepy because there are crows everywhere that are kind of lining the top of the room. It's almost like a little gallery of art, and there's crows on the lights on the top of the on the top of the room. At the top of the room. That's what I was going for.
My biggest question is why?
Yeah.
Why
Who keeps
crows?
a bunch of crows in their room?
Crows?
And,
what are you doing?
And the
here?
only reason the crows are in there is if you do not get the puzzle correct, they all come after you and try to kill you. It's stupid, but it's really fun. But you have to definitely think, who put a bunch of crows in a room to attack someone who did a puzzle wrong? Yeah. But anyway, the whole thing is like, they want you to document a child from birth to the grave. So they want you to do it with pictures. It's very simple once, you can read the description on every picture. It's very, like, it's something you can figure out no problems. They made that puzzle incredibly easy. But yeah, and then, you get puzzle crests, and the puzzle crests are supposed to, like, open specific areas to basically continue the game. So, you finally meet up with Barry on the second floor, and then Barry's like, you must find the back door, and he gives you this weapon that he claims is really, really powerful. He gives you some, like, rounds for, I think it's the explosive rounds he gives you, and at first you're just like, what do I use this for? And then very shortly after, you find out that they're used in the bazooka. The bazook, if you will. I love the bazook. So, you find the bazook in another instance with birds. There's a couple instances with birds in this game. So, there's a part where you will go out on a balcony. It's a room that has a balcony in it. And you find another one of your Bravo team members murdered by birds. And he's just pecked to death. It's crazy. But anyway, he has a bazooka next to him. The bazook. And he, you pick it up, and then, of course, as soon as you pick it up, the birds come running after you, and the birds are pretty easy to avoid, I'm not gonna lie. They're not the scariest villain in this game, that's for sure. There's a lot of really stupid things that come after you, and the birds are by far the easiest one to deal with. You don't have to kill them, but you can. So, the next room we ran into was the tiger room. And you know what they say? Some tigers have a red eye, some tigers have a blue eye, but they never talk about the brown eye. And I don't know why.
That's the puzzle.
That's the puzzle.
With this room.
Yep. No,
you have to find a blue stone and a red stone somewhere in the mansion to, like, it unlocks one of the crests, right?
Yep. Yeah, the very first one you get, I believe, is the blue stone, and the blue stone has a crest behind it. And then later on you get a red stone, which unlocks another treat we'll talk about later. So, after that, you come across your first weird... I want to say, like,
it's a boss.
It's not...
it's not a boss battle, it's just a monster...
It's an annoying monster in your way.
Obstacle.
So, like, there are these vines coming out from this... I want to say it's, like, a garden room, which I don't know why this mansion needs, like, a weird garden room, but it's got a fountain, and there are these vines coming out of it, and the vines will slap the crap out of you if you try to go by them. But what you can do is, in one of the save rooms, you find chemical. That's what it's called, chemical. And if you put the chemical in the water fountain, or not in the water fountain, in, like, this water supply that's supplying the fountain, it will disperse and successfully shrivel the crap out of that vine monster thing. So after you do that, you finally get, I think, your first key to the mansion, because there are locked doors galore. What kind of game would it be if there wasn't 30 locked doors that you had to figure out what was going on inside of them? So this is where we get to that part where Monty was talking about the Keeper's Diary, the itchy, tasty part, which is by far one of the creepiest things that you read in this game, and obviously my favorite one that you read. But yeah, the coolest thing about this room is that the Keeper is actually hiding in his closet, and after...
I didn't want to spoil that.
Yeah. And then what happens after you read his diary?
He's hiding in a closet and then just jump scares the crap out of you.
Yeah, there's just, like, a giant closet, and you're looking at his desk, and, like, as soon as you get done reading it, he's just like, dun dun dun, and he's there behind you, and you just have to, like, kill him. It's very scary, if you don't know it's coming, for sure. So, the next part is the piano room, which is always, like, when I was playing this game, and when I was younger, it was always my favorite room because I really like Moonlight Sonata, which is the piece of music you actually have to play on the piano to open like a hidden door. We have to swap some emblems and get some more crap. You know, that works. More puzzle pieces. But yeah, it's really cool. And I know if you play the Jill version, she's smart enough to know how to play the piano. But if you play the Chris campaign, he actually doesn't know how to play the piano, so he makes Rebecca do it for him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really cool. Both campaigns have a little different gameplay and storyline, which is actually really neat when you think about it. So, there's also a room that's the weird bathroom of nothing. I feel like they just made this bathroom so that you could look at yourself in the mirror, because that's all there is in this bathroom. There's nothing. Not a zombie. There's not any items you can pick up. It's just a bathroom.
One could argue it's not even a bathroom.
Yeah. Maybe it's a portal.
Maybe it's my soul.
maybe it's the soul of the game. Maybe they hit an Easter egg in there and they do it just to, like, screw with me. So next is the poison puzzle room, which is, it's got, like, 2 full walls just full of armor. Just, like, armor that's standing there with, like, spears in their hands. And armor rooms are always intimidating, because you're just like, is it gonna come down and kill me? But thankfully...
Yeah, I didn't trust any of them. I never trust, just like the great PewDiePie. You never trust the armor.
It's exactly how it feels when you go into that room. As scary as that sounds, the armor absolutely has nothing to do with this puzzle. It's just like, if you press a switch in the middle of the floor, poison will come out of these 2, what are they? These 2... Vents in holes on the floor, and you just have to, like, move statues to cover up the holes. It was pretty hard to figure out, but we did it. We did it! No, I'm just kidding. The puzzles in this game are pretty easy. There was only, like, maybe 1 or 2 that I had to, like, look up to remember what I was supposed to do. So shortly after you get done with that puzzle, you find Richard. Richard got chomped by Snake. You find out, it is technically Snake, but it looks more like he got chomped by a shark, because the holes on this guy, there's like 13 holes, and we all know that Snake only have like 4 teeth, right?
It's the big snake, though, in his defense.
Well, maybe he just chomped him many times. But anyway, Richard's like, I'm poisoned, and it's like, clearly you're dying from your wound, you're not poisoned. But anyway, he's like, you need to get serum for me, and so you run all the way back to a save room that's called, like, the medical save room, because it's the only one that has medicine on cabinets. You get him the serum, but by the time you come back, he's like, I'm dead, and dies. And Richard's just like, ugh. Just like, and he's got like all this blood splurting out of him. It's amazing. So then you finally get to meet your first boss. It's the Snake, and he comes out of like it's apparently the room is an attic, and he comes out of like a chimney, like, or a fireplace. And I just gotta say, this frickin' Snake really loves fireplaces. And the Snake is, like, it's so freaking annoying. It's a terrible boss, because they give you, like, this, like, you must avenge Richard! And the fun thing is, you don't actually have to avenge Richard. Like, people can go ape crap on that Snake and just, like, blow it up with, like, bazooka rounds or shotgun rounds, whatever you want to do. But you don't have to. At the end of the day, all you have to do is get the crust that the thing brings into the room, and then you can just leave. You don't have to deal with it. So your first boss is completely optional, and I'm sure many, many people don't know that. So I decided to just leave the room. I was just like, it was nice to see you. Bye. It's incredibly hard to kill this stupid thing, and I'm like, you know what? I'll save that for a little bit later into the game.
Well, if we have the option, then take it.
Yeah, exactly. So, as soon as you leave the room, even if the Snake doesn't hit you once, you pass out because you're poisoned.
Convenient.
Yes, how convenient. So, you pass out, someone appears and brings you to the medical save room, which is where we had to get the serum for Richard. When you wake up, you're just like, was that you, Barry? But nobody's there. Barry?
Barry has a beard, by the way, and it's amazing.
Yeah, Barry's a really nice guy. He's literally Jill's rock in the game. You feel like you wouldn't be able to get anywhere in the game if it wasn't for Barry, because Barry's constantly saving your dumbass. It's so sad because, like, they make Chris out to look like this macho bad guy who can't even play the piano, but Jill's always
Does he have
saved.
a beard?
No,
Barry.
Chris has a vest.
Ain't no beard.
No, he ain't got no beard. So we get the last door, or we get the last door. We get the last crest that we need to open the back door, which is where Barry wanted us to be. So we get out there, and there's like a huge garden, and we finally find out about blue herbs, which save you from being poisoned. There's this really annoying part where snakes fall from the sky.
Like the surrounding trees.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of like...
They're little snakes.
Yeah,
thankfully.
they're little.
Not like the big ass one you had to walk around.
Yeah, exactly. They're very small snakes, but it's like, what is this? Like, where was it that, like, snakes fly from trees? Is it Polynesia?
I looked at... somewhere in, like...
Philippines?
Near the equator.
Yeah, it was just insane. It was like, well, there are some snakes that come from trees, but... what the hell?
No,
so yeah, if these snakes bite you, they will poison you, and they are evil little craps. So I hate them, and that's why they probably put the blue herbs there, because they know that they're gonna come and eat your butt. So after you deal with the little butt snakes, the guardhouse is the next point that you find. So there's like a house in the middle of this garden, and it's pretty creepy. The dogs, I guess we didn't really talk about the zombie dogs other than the beginning of the game.
Oh yeah, they're really cool. How dare us?
Yeah, there's zombie dogs outside, like, "Hurr!" And the dogs are stupid. I mean,
they're cool looking, but they're dumb.
I feel bad every time I kill one because it's like, "Hurr!" And you're just like, I'm sorry, that was scary sounding. You just feel bad.
They just seem like when they attack you, it's really... because they make these, like, flying leaps, and if they miss, they just kind of, like, stop midair, so it's just this, like, floating dog.
Yeah, and you can also, like, kill them midair, too. That's honestly the easiest time to kill them, because it's when they're transitioned from falling down to getting up, you can never seem to hit them right. So after you take care of them, there's, in this guardhouse, there's a couple different rooms that have, like, some documents and a few health items and some ammo. But then you go into the billiard room where the butthole spiders are, and the butthole spiders, they're just gigantic spiders, and they want to hump you to death. Yep. And I actually died once because of that. They literally take their feet and they just wrap them around you, and they're just like, ha! And you're just like, I hate you! So yeah, you get what you need in the billiard room, and you just get the hell out as fast as you can, because you're just like, I don't want any...
I don't want to have your spider babies.
I don't want to have no spider babies. We already talked about Spider-Man. We don't need any spider babies. Anyway, so the next part is bees. You go into a room, and you're just like, oh, hey, there's a key here with this giant... Is that a beehive? Yeah, there's a beehive, and the bees will come after you, and they will sting your ass, and they will, like, poison you.
No, the person who made, like, or the people who helped make this game, like, they had an appreciation for insects.
They really did.
Because they either have insects, or they have monsters that have, like, insect-like qualities. Like, we'll get to that.
Yeah. And then, as crazy as it sounds, like, I know this place is called the guardhouse, but it has a secret lab under it. And then you find a secret ladder that leads to that underground lab, and, like, you find out that it's, like, all engulfed in water, and there's, like, a giant plant that rules it. And you have to, like, make this serum to poison the plant so that you can take the plant out old-fashioned way. You know what I mean. The old-fashioned way. You actually go to the secret lab, and you can actually drain all of the water out of the basement. And then there's zombie sharks that try to, like, come after you. And, if they get a hold of you, they will eat you.
Yeah, they're pretty badass looking, though.
But if you drain all the water, you go back out, and they're just, like, flopping around. And
like, help me!
They're just like, oh, you ass. You would take away all of our water that we need to live, thrive, and survive. So the visual puzzle is actually quite a bit of fun. As a kid, I thought it was incredibly annoying, and I hated it. But as an adult, I'm like, haha, it's simple math. So, it's interesting playing it again as an adult versus as a child when I was like, I hate puzzles. I just want to know what happens. So you do the V-Jolt puzzle, you put the V-Jolt on the shriveled roots of the plant, it goes like, and like, sucks itself into its own ass. And then, you have to go upstairs and take the plant out old school. You have to, what? Oh, yeah, it's in like this gigantic room. The plant is in this gigantic room, and all it literally is a giant bulb with tentacles that will slap the crap out of you.
It looks like a jellyfish.
Yeah, it looks like a giant jellyfish. It's like purple. It's not green, it's like purple. So, like, I shotgunned the crap out of it. Well, I ended up beating this stupid thing like a dozen times. Not dozen, sorry. I like 3 times, I guess.
Yeah, solid 3-4 times.
And that's only because I couldn't find any freaking ink ribbon to save after this kept happening. I kept dying. But anyway, I'll explain that in a minute. So, you bazooka the crap out of it, or you shotgun it, and it turns into a giant shriveled potato. It literally just like... my beautiful sound effects, and it just becomes a giant purple potato, and you get another mansion key from the random fireplace that's in this room. So after you beat the giant potato plant that was apparently your second boss, you find Wesker in the hallway when you're about to leave the guardhouse, and he's shooting some bees, and he's just like, "Oh hey Jill," in his
and you're
normal...
like, Wesker.
Oh, I'm glad you're okay.
And I am also glad you are okay.
Yes. And he is like, oh, good. You are alive, Jill. And yeah, it's very monotone and like badly done. Especially the third time you have to listen to it when I kept dying all those times. So yeah, you guys are just like, we have to keep going, and then you do keep going, like literally. So after you're done in the guardhouse, you go back to the mansion and you find a new bad guy you have to deal with. And it's the Hunters, who are single-handedly the most annoying freaking bad guy, like freaking enemies that you have to deal with. I just want to sigh repeatedly after this.
They're short little green, like...
They look like trolls
troll
from Oblivion.
frog things with, like, giant claws.
They're really fast. That's what sucks about them. The AI on them is so incredibly unpredictable. They can literally come at you with a one-shot attack and just take your freaking head off, and you're dead. And you're just like, I haven't saved in, like, 10 minutes! And you're just, yeah, you gotta do that 10 minutes all over again.
And if you, like, even if you, like, aim at, like, directly at them, they'll jump over you and then take your head off from behind. So it's like...
I died a lot. I think I died at least 5 times because of those little suckers. So what I try to do is I try to... Bazooka is the best way to go with Hunters. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah,
the shotgun feels like a nice way to go, but it only takes 1 bazooka bullet. It takes, like, 3 or 4 shotgun shots to get them down. So... after you get past your first couple hunters, you find your save room, and Barry leaves you a little sweet note that's like, I found some extra ammo and some extra health items for you. And you're just like, aw, Barry, that's so sweet. I need more health items, even though at this point I had like 30 health items. I didn't need any more.
But like, oh, Barry, he's trying.
He's being a sweetheart, and you gotta give him that. So shortly after that, you find Magnum Dong rounds.
The Magnum Dong!
I found some Magnum gun rounds for my Magnum Dong. Technically, at this point, you don't actually have a Magnum, but you find the rounds, and you just look at them, and you're like, ooh, very nice. So you just start putting those away until you need them. Well, then at this point, we get to our third boss, which is the Return of the Snake.
Everyone's favorite movie.
Yeah. And if you don't put in the effort to try to beat him up the first time, he's actually apparently quite a bit stronger because he doesn't have any shots fired at him. So people say use acid rounds, and they're very right. I just did regular rounds. It took like 20 bazooka rounds. If I think I did acid rounds, and it only took like 3 or 4 of them, and
well, yeah, because you died. Initially.
I died a couple times, man.
Yeah, and then you started with the acid rounds, and it was like 1, 2, 3, and then he died.
Yep, and I was like, oh my god, why didn't I just listen to the internet?
Uh-huh.
So then, so before the snake actually attacks you, because you're by a piano just looking at it, apparently you're like, a piano, my love. It's literally a room with a fireplace and a piano. I don't know what this room is supposed to be, but it looks really, like, it's just incredibly, like, boring. It's just got a fireplace and a piano. I don't know what anyone did in this room. They're like, oh, what a beautiful piano. What a beautiful piano sitting right next to my fireplace. But anyway, so the snake tries to crush you with its head and makes a giant hole in the floor, which you go down after you beat the snake. And, oh, actually, I guess you don't go down it right away. You look at it and you're about to go down and Barry comes in and he's like, I have rope. And you're like, oh, dang, I need rope to get down hole. So you go down the hole and then Barry drops the rope and, like, cause he's a big peen hole. And you're just like, Barry! And Barry's like, wait, I have more rope. So he leaves. And, like, this room is ridiculous. You literally go down a hole in the floor that brings you to, like, a room that has nothing but a gravestone in it. And, like, when this happened to me...
Everyone should have a room like that in their house.
When this happened to me, I was like, why? Am I gonna die? But, like, apparently this gravestone has a switch, and it opens up, and there's a ladder underneath the gravestone. And
it has a switch, and it makes you play Mario Kart for, like, 8 cups before you can get back up the hole.
Exactly.
No, just kidding.
Exactly. And I cried, because I'm terrible at Mario Kart. Mario Kart.
Mario Kart.
Kart. But anyway, before you can go down the ladder, Barry comes back and he's like, I have rope. And you're like, oh, thank you for coming back with rope. So you go up there and you're just like, thanks for saving me, Barry. Once more, the 3rd or 4th time this has happened now. And he's like, no problem, I found this. And he gives you a passcode for a door that you couldn't get into before. And she's like, I'll hang on to that. Because apparently Barry just gives you everything you need in the game. So anyway, you go back down the hole, you go down the wonderful tombstone stairs, and this is where the most horrifying music in the entire game starts. You gotta pull up this music. It's terrible.
It's for the basement, and, like, I don't know what they were thinking.
Oh, it's so bad.
Right here.
Yeah, we're gonna play this.
Listen to that beautiful music.
It's like some kid was like, you know what? I have a keyboard at home, and I can just go crazy on it if you want me to.
Pretty much.
It literally sounds like a bunch of trumpets just going crazy. So that happens. You literally have to listen to that for like the next, like, 20 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah, and, like, if you die, you have to keep coming back.
And hearing it.
Yeah,
or
so
if you have too much stuff or too little stuff in your inventory, you have to keep going back and forth to get more items.
So it just gets burned into your brain.
By the time you're done, you're just making up your own song to the terrible trumpet music. So, okay, when you go to leave the basement, which is your only escape from this music, a cutscene of a zombie entering the room happens, which is actually pretty cool. Like, it's actually kind of terrifying. It's just as terrifying as the first time the hunters are introduced to you, and you're just like, wow, zombies and hunters can open doors? Why aren't they constantly just trying to kill me? But there's only 2 times where this actually happens, and you're just like, well, maybe it's for the best. So, yeah. You take out that one, and then there's an elevator to go upstairs, and you finally get to see your main, like, objective, or your end game. Your final end game, which is a helicopter pad. And you're just like, whoa. You finally get to see the end of the game. And it's not a very long game, but you're just like, oh, this madness is almost over. So, in the upstairs, you find a battery for an elevator that was for the garden, and you also find the first ammo disc that you need. I like when you mentioned the zombies opening doors, and then my cats are trying to, like, peel their way into the room. So you open... Okay, so using the elevator in the garden allows you to open the sewers and find Barry. Barry needs your help. I don't know how Barry got down there before you did, because apparently there was no way in there before you got there, but Barry needs your help. And he's like, follow me! And he takes out some hunters, and then together you find Enrico, who is another part of your Bravo team. He's hurt, and he tells you about Umbrella and how the whole, like, Bravo team mission was literally a plot for Umbrella to take you out one by one, and just basically get rid of you. Umbrella says you're in their way, and they want you to just get out of their way.
Typical big evil corporation.
Yep. Someone kills Enrico before you can explain the entirety of the plot from Umbrella, and the killer takes off before you guys can even figure out who it is. So Barry investigates, as Barry does, and obviously you have to do all the actual work. So before you leave the room that Enrico died in, you find a crank that the killer left, and this is not a joke. At this point, you have to crank a room around. You use the crank to move the entire room, and then you run from a big boulder. It's literally like Indiana Jones if Indiana Jones was stupid all of a sudden. Because boulder, the gameplay in this game is already incredibly difficult. They want you to run and turn at the same time. That is not possible in this game. You have to run and then stop and then turn and then run again. So the first time I freaking got ran over by that damn boulder.
Did you have to go all the way back to the trumpets at that point?
I had to go back to the trumpets because of that boulder. That boulder is the worst enemy in the game.
Yep.
So yeah. The boulder is stupid, and so is cranking the rooms around.
And so are trumpets.
The end. So the boulder is nice enough when you get past it to open up a new area with something that we like to call the fourth boss in this game, Spider Boss. So you kill the spider. It's not too terribly hard. You just throw a couple bazooka rounds at it, and babies come out of it when it dies. But the nice thing is, if you just leave the room and come back into the room, the babies go away. But the babies will poison the crap out of you. So I definitely recommend just leaving and coming back after you kill it. So then you get to find the sewer snakes, which are literally just as stupid as the garden snakes. They fall from the ceiling, and once again they try to poison you, but it's a smaller area, so they actually are pretty good at it. So I just recommend running down that entire area that the stupid little craps fall from. So you take an elevator to the courtyard, and it wants you to find an eagle and a wolf crest. The courtyard is pretty cool. It's like this huge fountain, and you're supposed to throw the crests on there. I don't know what.
And make a wish.
And make a wish. And hopefully you can leave, because that's going to be the only wish you really want. So you have to go back to the sewers to find these crests, and after you find... Because I already at this point had the eagle crest, I just needed the wolf crest. So when you go back in the sewers, you find the second MO disc, and you also find a lab key. I was missing a door in the mansion at this point, so I ran back to the mansion, and I found the magnum gun dong, which is what I was looking for, so now I can finally use my magnum bullets. And Umbrella's plot to lure the Bravo team members into the lab and fight with Bo, the BOW, the biological weapons, which are the zombies and the snakes and the and the spiders and everything stupid and the hunters, and get data, and everything is supposed to be destroyed by accident. So you find out Umbrella's incredibly thorough and stupid plan to just kill a few people. Don't get me wrong, I think they wanted to take you out because they knew that, they wanted this to be a world-devastating thing, because, of course, Umbrella is always thinking 2 steps ahead.
Mm-hmm. Also, I made some notes just so we could follow our, pace here, and I like that I mentioned Magnum Gundong twice.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just noticing that.
Oh, yeah.
Last night I was like, Magnum Dong! Anyway.
So after you get your wolf crest, you head back to the courtyard, and you enter the Labiloo, the laboratory, and find the third MO disc in the slide room, which you also find out in the slide room that the mole... there's a mole that's actually something Enrico mentioned. I totally forgot. He's like, there's a mole! Someone's spying on us. Then you find out the mole is Wesker. With a name like Wesker, you just gotta assume that it's Wesker.
Well, he's the only one with, glasses. And,
sunglasses.
Yeah, he wears his sunglasses at night.
Yes. So then, as you enter the laboratory, you find naked zombies. That literally, they make noises like whales.
They sound like...
Oh. And then when they walk, it's like... Pap, pap, pap. And you're just like... Why do they sound so strange? It's like Zoidbergs. It's like you're fighting a bunch of Zoidbergs.
And they die and they're just like, whoa.
And then shortly after you have to take out the naked zombies, you learn more about John and Ada. So I know Ada is a character that's actually much heavier in the second and fourth games, but you learn about John, who apparently, I don't know if it's Ada's significant other or if it's a family member, but it sounds like they were pretty close, and you find out that he wants Ada to leak all of the data that they have about Umbrella to the press, because John apparently doesn't think he's going to make it. He's one of the researchers actually there, and he's one of the people who has one of the MO-disc codes. So there's 3 researchers. Each researcher has a weird code for their MO-discs. It's like a biblical,
Bible verse.
Yeah, a little Bible verse that they make you read, which, I mean, I get it. There's a lot of post-apocalyptic crap in the Bible, but, I wasn't expecting that in my Resident Evil game. So I was like, okay. I mean, at least the other verses weren't anything too preachy.
Nah, but the Bible's, an obscure enough book to where they could just be like, this means something, and then just pick it out.
Yeah, but it's a Bible verse because they actually quote what specific, book it came from. And you're just like, okay. So then after that, you have to enter the power room to get another MO-disc code, and you find the last enemy you really battle. There's a main boss after this, of course, but the last enemy that you meet is the Chimeras. The Chimeras are very, very creepy, actually. They're like little spider well, no, they're bigger than spider monkeys, but they behave very, very similarly.
Yeah.
They're they have knives for hands.
No, yeah.
And they like to hang out on the top of ceilings.
Yeah, before when I was talking about the insect inspiration for the characters in this game, this is one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look like praying mantis gorilla crossovers, if that's possible.
Or ape. Yeah, ape. Maybe not gorilla.
Yeah, something like
they're
that.
They're really they're probably so they like to hang out on the top of the ceiling and then come down to cut you with their knives, but they'll also cut you from the top of the room too.
Sort of
they're very fast.
Yeah.
And when they die, maggots fall off of them. It's really creepy.
The way they attack you reminds me of how the Mangle attacks you in Five Nights at Freddy's. Because she just hangs down from the ceiling and just tries to pull you up into her mouth.
Yeah,
it's similar.
It's very weird. But they're really creepy, and they make you just want to get the hell out of the power room as fast as you can.
Yeah, the jump scare quality is there too.
Exactly. So after you get the MO disc and you get the power on for the elevator, Barry stops by and he's like, "Hey, you going my way?" And you're like, "Yee." So you guys go up the elevator together and you find Wesker. He's blocking the exit, and Barry puts a gun to your head. And apparently Barry is being used by Wesker because Barry has a family. And you're just like, "No, not you, Barry." And Barry looks very defeated. You could tell he does not want to have to turn against you. He really likes you. And yeah, you guys work really well together, so I can see why. So, Wesker reveals all of the plans and the plots and how they literally just wanted the data so that they knew how all of this was going to unfold when they released it on the rest of the world. And then reveals the plans of this biological weapon he claims is the ultimate biological weapon, Tyrant. So, at this point, Wesker's getting really full of himself.
Very monologue-y.
Very monologue-y. It goes on. This is actually the longest monologue in the entire game. Then Barry KOs Wesker. He just knocks him out with his gun. And you're just like, "Thank you, Barry."
Yeah.
And Barry's like,
"Come on, Barry."
Yeah, Barry's like, "I really didn't want to have to do that. I didn't want to have to turn on you." He's like, "My family will be okay." He's like, "I'm not working for that idiot." So you go in the room, and it's a big laboratory, and there's Tyrant in a tank, and he looks like
Colossus.
Well, he's not made out of metal. He's not finished, and they actually mention this.
He's just this big dude, and he's got veins everywhere.
A big throbbing pile of veins.
No, his heart.
And his heart is
exposed.
beating. Yeah.
And his one arm, his one right hand, I think, his left hand has like really long claws instead of fingers.
Yeah. And Barry's like, we have to stop this, and instead drains all the water out of the tank so that so that Tyrant actually breaks out of the tank and comes after you, and then immediately knocks out Barry, so you know you have to take down the Tyrant. Thankfully, he's not very hard to take down as long as you use your magnum. I think it's only a few rounds and he falls flat on his face. Mm-hmm. You get Barry, you wake him up, and you're like, we need to leave. You go back where you came from, and Wesker is gone, and you're like, dang it. And then you and Barry have to witness the worst alarm that's ever been set off in its entire life.
This game is all about, like...
Here's the annoying self-destruct alarm in this game that you have to hear for, like... 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, this game is all about, like, testing your patience in multiple ways, including the audio.
Yes.
Yeah, imagine hearing that for, like, how long is it?
Like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah. It doesn't seem that bad, but I mean...
I had to kill the boss, I had to replay the, like, last boss battle, like, twice. At the second time, I just muted it. I'm like, you know what? I'm not listening to this anymore. It's like if they took the alarm clock when you woke up and they just like, you know what, we should just turn it way up. That's how it felt.
Yep.
You go to the heliport room, or you get to the elevator before the heliport room. Barry's like, I'll cover you. You go signal for Brad, who is the one who left you before in the helicopter. And you're like, all right. So you go up the elevator. There's a box of flares. You light the flare. Brad finds you and just kind of hovers above the helipad. At this point, after you watch him hover above you for like a freaking minute, I swear to God, it's literally a cutscene of him just flying around. You don't see it, you just see like the little like the literal circle of the like shadow that this helicopter makes, which I know would not be a circle, but it looks like a bitty circle. Mm-hmm. So shortly after that, Tyrant explodes from the floor and comes after you, and you have to weaken him at this point because he's much, much like harder to beat than he was in the laboratory. Even though there's way more space, he charges after you and does like this sweep attack that if like it doesn't matter, like you could be like only like you could be a foot away and he would still get you.
Just like pastes you to the wall.
So you have to make sure you have quite a few health items and some real good like weapons to take down his like insane bung. He's really fast, and then after a minute of like evading him and like pumping some rounds into him, finally Brad's like, oh hey, I have a rocket launcher, why don't you use this? So you take the rocket launcher, you shoot him with, all you need is one round because it's a rocket launcher, and literally he explodes, and when you like, it's a big, like, explosion, and when it's done, all you see is a head and 4 limbs.
Yep.
That's all that's left of him.
It just explodes his torso.
Yep. So after that, Brad rescues you and Barry, and shortly after that, the lab blows up. And that's and then there's a really cheerful and sweaty ending. You're like supposed...
It's live action again, like the intro was.
The intro is, yeah. And it's just them sitting in the helicopter.
It kind of reminds me of the end of the first Jurassic Park, when they're just flying away. Like, that happened.
Mm-hmm, that's
people
exactly
died.
It's like, because all she does is like, is your family going to be okay, Barry? And Barry's like, I don't know.
I have a beard.
Yeah.
And a Magnum dog.
By the way, Barry really likes this Magnum. He actually mentions this a couple times during the game. He's like, I don't need that. I've got this.
Uh-huh.
So the ending is cheerful and sweaty. And then you get the credits, which are actually kind of amusing.
Amusing.
Kind of amusing. So the cast is only listed by their first name, which is weird, because I thought that you'd have to credit both first and last names. But I don't know. It was weird. Yeah, it's just like the first name, like Alicia played Jill. But I mean, that's not really who did, but that's all they would put. And I'm like, okay. Weird. And then the music composer has, like, the biggest, like, they get the biggest credit out of everybody. Like, it's just like, music composer, blah, and you're just like, wow, the music composer does not need that kind of credit. That music, for most of the game, was just like, you wanted to punch yourself in the eardrum. And then apparently the Biohazard Symphony Orchestra it had made the end theme, which I don't really think that's a thing. But apparently it's in huge text, and the ending theme song is called Tempest. And I'm like...
It's like in your face.
And it was a really nice song. It's too bad they couldn't have actually used them to do the rest of the music. Because most of it's like mind-meltingly horrible. And you just want to cry. Mm-hmm. Like, some of it's creepy, but most of it is, like, insane keyboard trumpets.
Yeah,
and
just that
crappy
one.
Alarms. Mm-hmm. So, it only took me 6.5 hours and 20 saves to finish. I actually finished this game in a day. Didn't really take me very long. I had to replay it a few different times because hunters like to take it right in my butt.
They like to give it to you in the butt.
Yeah, that's how it felt. They like to give it to you right in the bung.
Actually, right in the neck, because they just, like, rip your head off.
Yeah, they just rip your head off. So, yeah, I had to deal with that a couple of times, which was a ton of fun. But, yeah, the game is actually not a terrible one. If you had to review it, what would you give it?
I'd probably say, like 7... like 6 or 7 out of 10. Yeah. Probably 7, because, like, I'd have to take probably a star off for the music and then 2 stars off for the dialogue and graphics. Even though I understand that's, like, the time that it was released.
Right.
Still. Like, there are other games that were made around the same time that were way more, like, polished.
Yeah, true. I totally get where you're coming from. I would still probably give this game an 8 out of 10, only because of the nostalgia and it being the first of its kind in the survival horror genre. It was, it's just as fulfilling to beat it as it is to play it.
Yeah, if you think about that, like, it's the first of its kind, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that's why the reviews for it are so positive. If this had been like, if they had made a game similar to this before it and they just expanded upon that kind of gameplay, people probably would have only rated it like a 5 out of 10. Like, I could see that. But because it was what makes horror so great nowadays, I think that's why it's got such a great, like, following for such a cult following, I should say. And why people love the game so much. And, yeah, I think it's a really great game. I used to try to play it. I know it's hard to get through, but I really recommend everybody play it.
We're gonna try and, like, switch back and forth between playing the games ourselves, but I honestly, I don't think it would have gone as well if I had tried to play it.
Yeah. It probably would have taken us a few days.
No, that's being generous. Maybe like a few weeks. A year.
A year, maybe. No, I'm just kidding. It's like, even when I was playing it, Monty was like, "You look really frustrated," and I was like, trying not to punch controller into TV. Mm-hmm. It's like, do a tyrant punch into TV. So, our question that we're going to leave you with before we say goodbye to you all: what is your favorite horror game and why? Mm-hmm. This is a great question, and like I said, you can answer this question via email, which is mojogamingpodcast@gmail.com. You can go to our Facebook and comment and tell us how you feel. You can do it on YouTube, which is Mojo Gaming Podcast, or you can, tweet to me or Monty. I am at MojoAmi.
And I'm Monty Rex with 2 X's.
Yes. So, feel free to answer anywhere, and we'll make sure to also mention it in our next episode, if you do.
We'll read some.
Yeah.
Read
some.
What's your favorite horror? Probably Resident Evil, right?
No, I mean, it's not my favorite horror series. It's the top 5, for sure. My favorite horror game. And I think of that as a game that you can go back to time and time again and relive and like enjoy and not feel like you have to play it or have to get through it. But my favorite horror game of all time is Silent Hill 2.
Oh, gotcha.
Resident Evil 2 is very, very close. They're like tied. So yes, Resident Evil is technically up there with, but Silent Hill 2 is kind of like that weird, like I get urges and like needs to play it because like I'll hear like the song, like a song from Silent Hill, and I'll just be like, I must play. My family needs me, even though it's nothing like that. But that's just, it's nostalgia from growing up around the game and the series, and the music just kind of like pulls me back to it. I'm very biased because I love horror games. Monty, what's your favorite horror game?
Yeah, I feel bad because I don't have a whole lot of experience with games.
Well, I mean, up until now, what do you think would be your favorite horror game?
I guess the only two that I've really played a whole lot was Slender. I played Slender when I was in like high school, but when it first came out, I really liked Five Nights at Freddy's. And I know that's like the most millennial answer, but like I liked the first one, I liked the second one, but it got way too complicated after the second one. They introduced a lot of elements that kind of changed it up.
I believe that. Thank you guys again for listening to our podcast. The people who did listen to the first one, we thank you so terribly much. We need feedback from you to know like what we can do better and like ways that we can improve it. I know we should probably shorten it a little bit more. I tried to make the audio much, much better in this one. We got a microphone so that it sounds mucho bueno. So yeah, we're trying. So let us know what we can do to make this podcast more entertaining for you. And thank you again for listening to us, and don't let a zombie bite your butt.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Barry, thanks for saving my life.